Be sure to check out MythVisionPodcast.com. Help MythVision grow, guys. Become a Patreon member. You guys will get early access to all my videos when I'm done editing them. Also, it's a small community where you guys can message me your questions and talk to me in private. You guys can also donate through PayPal and Cashapp. Join the social media links down in the description. We have Twitter, Facebook, all sorts of social media. Help the community of MythVision grow. Hit the subscribe button, hit that bell so you guys are notified every time I do a live video and you don't miss any of my content. Dr. Price, another donor we have a question from. And you know, not all the donors had questions, Dr. Bob. A lot of them said, just for Dr. Bob, and, you know, thank you, and I don't have any questions, and keep it up. Some of them had funny things to say. Like I said earlier, I'm a gay liberal, what do you say? Armed skeptic. And I was like, awesome. You know what I mean? Just hearing people, that's so cool. This gentleman is Bastian Koster. And he says, Dr. Robert and Price, my question. Many times Israelite lore is compared with myths from their neighbors. How can myths from Greece, Egypt, and Mesopotamia be so similar? Greek mythology is part of the Indo-European branch. Egypt-Mesopotamian myths belong to a different branch. Common ancestor or syncretism? Dr. Price?
Well, I would guess syncretism, though you might not want to use that. Well, I guess that'd be proper, but it's no big mystery because Israel, Palestine, whatever you want to call it, was for about 1,000 years a colony of Egypt. So they certainly knew about Egyptian religion and mythology, which are kind of the same thing. And of course, they had lots of dealings, pro and con, with the Philistines, who were a Mediterranean and kind of Greek people with their mythology. And so you would expect all these things to kind of blend together. And so it's no surprise they had their own versions of things. Like the ancients, Greeks thought that Osiris of Egypt had to be the same god as Dionysus of Greece. And then various people thought that Jehovah and Dionysus were the same god, and so they that's sort of common that it all mixes together, and that it was just different names for the same myths sometime.
Yeah, I've heard the Indo-European idea briefly, and you know what's crazy? It just recently came to my attention that there is this idea of Indo-European and what that means. Like, there's a whole argument in that, the development between different schools of thought of how we came to be, how Caucasians look Caucasian and Africans look and all these things. But I wonder if they were that divided over cultures and color and racial stuff in that time as we have seen because of our own perception of stuff that's happened since antebellum slavery and the issues that have happened between whites and blacks in America. Is that kind of, and this is getting off topic, I don't want it to get too far off topic, but I wonder if that's painting our perception in wondering how these cultures would even, come together. I mean, if we go back to Neanderthal, so to speak, we find out that versions of ourselves, that our ancestors mingled with the Neanderthal, and so they're a totally different breed. Yet they were over here having babies with them. So how divided would they have been? I mean, would it require syncretism for that to happen, or is it really not even exclusive? Technically, it's not an exclusive idea to say, well, it's syncretism, but it's also, it doesn't matter if they're Indo-European. They bumped into each other throughout this time and traded ideas.
Well, that's kind of why I hesitated to use the word syncretism, but I think it does apply to that. Like the one reason the mystery religions in Christianity and Judaism rubbed off on each other was that they couldn't help meeting people from other religions. And in fact, ancient Paula Fredrickson mentions this, that ancient deeds and contracts required the signatories to swear to invoke various gods, just like when Jacob and Laban say, may Yahweh watch over you and me. In other words, don't think you're going to cheat me, God's watching. Mithras' important function was to be a guarantor of pacts. And so you had Jews having to sign up this invocation of other gods, but it was just such a formality, they didn't see any compromise with their own monotheistic beliefs. And so you just have to live with this stuff and realize it's just an appendage to the culture of the other guy who you do business with. As to the race thing, I would suspect it wasn't as polarized as it is, though of course it's much less polarized than certain politicians would have you think today. But one reason I say this is that, the stupid mistake that that Canaan was cursed by Noah, and so that his descendants would be slaves of Shem, of the Israelites. Ancient rabbis were already saying what antebellum slave owners in the United States did, that the Canaanites were African blacks who were already being enslaved by others. So that does go way back.
Wow.
Jeremiah says, can the leopard change his spots or the Ethiopian his skin? Now, that doesn't really, that's not negative. It's just saying, well, they're really different. Suppose you were an Ethiopian and you wanted to become white, you couldn't do it. But there's no value judgment. But it just shows people noticed it, which you could hardly help doing.
Wow. And another thing to end on that, I guess that idea that I think is pertinent to the topic of him bringing up these clash of ideas from Greek, Mesopotamian, Egyptian, is when we look at the Greek time, when Hellenism came on the scene and the Greeks ruled the world, they did something I think was very unique. Unlike maybe what we've seen before, it's not as spelled out as unique as what they did. They really tried to, it seemed, blend in the cultures and the ideas, unlike what you might have seen like before. There might have been some version of this, but it's not as well known. Like in Persia, I'm sure, there was some Abrahamic type faith or religion in some way, or even Yahweh. Maybe Abraham's not even on the scene yet. Let's just say a Yahwist type religion that combines itself with the Persian religion in some way or fashion. But the Greeks didn't limit it there. They didn't just go, all right, Yahweh. They took the whole plethora, and they seemed to say kind of like Russell Gamirkin saying, I think has some interesting ideas. They had Egyptian, Alexander the Great was an Egyptian pharaoh. And the guy traveled to India.
He was the son of Zeus Ammon, the combination of the two gods. Yeah. And now, as a result of this, you can find ancient statues of the Buddha dressed like Apollo. And so, he wanted to spread Greek culture, and he did. That's why Koine Greek superseded Aramaic, which had been the lingua franca of the Persian Empire, strangely enough. And we wouldn't be taking Greek in seminary and so forth if it weren't for Alexander the Great.
This is an awesome topic. I know we could spend a very long time talking about this because I just love it so much. Great question from such a great person. I really appreciate that, Bastian. This is, I think Hellenism's going to solve a lot of the problems, like you talked about, later dating, for why we find these ideas. So thank you for answering, Dr. Price.